Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Don't mind all the birds and ducks behind us. We just ducked in from the cold.
In St. James's Park.
St. James's Park, yeah. So there's a little calf there. So you'll notice some background music. This isn't a new addition to our readings, but it's just that they're playing music in this place, and it is so cold outside. It's really hard to sit outside and try to read. So we just decided to come in and read here. So, okay, where are we?
Canto 3, chapter 16, text 24.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
And text 24. Dear Lord, you never want the auspicious path to be destroyed, for you are the reservoir of all goodness. And just to benefit people in general, you destroy the evil element by your mighty potency. You are the proprietor of the three creations and the maintainer of the entire universe. Therefore, your potency is not reduced by your submissive behavior. Rather, by submission, you exhibit your transcendental pastimes. Okay. Lord Krishna was never reduced in his position by becoming a cowherd boy or by offering respect to Sudama Brahmana or his other devotees like Nanda Maharaj, Vasudeva, Maharaj Yudhishthira and the Pandavas' mother Kunti. Everyone knew that he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, yet his behavior was exemplary. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is Satchit Ananda Vigraha. His form is completely spiritual, full of bliss and knowledge, and it is eternal. Because the living entities are his parts and parcels, originally they also belong to the same quality of eternal form as the Lord. But when they come in contact with Maya, the material potency, due to their forgetfulness, their existential constitution is covered. We should try to understand the appearance of Lord Krishna in this spirit. As the Kumaras pray to him, he is eternally a cowherd boy at Vrindavan. He is eternally the leader of the battle of Kurukshetra, and he is eternally the opulent prince of Dwarka and the lover of the damsels of Vrindavan. All his appearances are meaningful because they show his real characteristics to the conditioned souls who have forgotten their relationship with the Supreme Lord. He does everything for their benefit. The force exhibited in the battle of Kurukshetra by the desire of Krishna and through the agency of Arjuna was also necessary because when people become too irreligious, force is required. Non-violence in this respect is rascaldom.
I have a question. It says at the beginning of the purport that everyone knew that he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, yet his behavior was exemplary. So I kind of thought no one knew he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Most did.
Huh?
I think a lot of people did.
Well, yeah, it's a good point. I guess, but it mentions Nanda Maharaj, Vasudeva. Of course, the Pandavas and Kunti, sometimes their prayers seem to demonstrate that they do know. So maybe it's more of like an intermittent kind of revelation, and
then they get covered again.
Yes, something like that. Any thoughts from you?
No.
Okay. So, text 25. O Lord, whatever punishment you wish to award to these two innocent persons, or also to us, we shall accept without duplicity. We understand that we have cursed two faultless persons. So I think this is just an amazing turn of events here, that now the four Kumars of their own accord, I think is the word, by their own accord, they're accepting that what they did was incorrect and that they're willing to be punished. And yet the Lord managed to do this by in no way breaching etiquette and offending them or upsetting them or getting heavy or anything like that. So I think this is just really wonderful. Purport. The sages, the four Kumars, now reject their cursing of the two doorkeepers, Jai and Vijay, because they are now conscious that persons who engage in the service of the Lord cannot be at fault at any stage. It is said that anyone who has implicit faith in the service of the Lord, or who actually engages in transcendental loving service, has all the good qualities of the demigods. Let me repeat that. It is said that anyone who has implicit faith in the service of the Lord, or who actually engages in transcendental loving service, has all the good qualities of the demigods. Therefore, a devotee cannot be at fault. If sometimes it is found that he is in error by accident or by some temporary arrangement, that should not be taken very seriously. The cursing of Jai and Vijay is here repented. Now the Kumars are thinking in terms of their position in the modes of passion and ignorance, and they are prepared to accept any kind of punishment from the Lord. In general, when dealing with devotees, we should not try to find faults. So powerful. In Bhagavad Gita also it is confirmed that the devotee who faithfully serves the Supreme Lord, even if found to commit a gross mistake, should be considered a sadhu or a saintly person. Due to former habits, he may commit some wrong, but because he is engaged in the service of the Lord, that wrong should not be taken very seriously. This is super awesome verse and purport. I just really, yeah, it's so important. Yeah. Any thoughts from your side?
I guess the thing is, like, same way we're engaged in, like we think, we're engaged in devotional service, then someone else is also, and just as we may slip up, make mistakes, others will as well.
Say that last part again. This is we may what?
Make mistakes or slip up, others will as well, but we're all far more glorious than those who are not on this path, because to be on this path is not easy in this material world, where it's like trying to swim upstream. Whoever takes to it, whether in the deep end or the shallow end, it don't matter, you're still glorious. It don't mean people don't get on your nerves and whatnot, but and they need to take out of the pool maybe a bit, or they need to be moved from the deep end to the shallow end.
Some people never learn. So
yeah, the point is, what I get from this is that just appreciation of whoever takes to this path. It isn't easy. In one sense it is, like Prabhupada says, chanting, dancing, feasting. It is, but it is a very deep process. It requires a lot of reflection and purification and discipline, and to stay on it and to make a commitment to stay, because Maya will attack everyone. So in that sense, appreciation that everyone's just with the mind and senses that we all have, and the conditionings we all have, everyone's trying their best, Some people get bashed about, and therefore they're behaving appropriately because they are weak at that particular time on the path, at a particular time. So then you don't act appropriate because they clearly come under the control of something that's not transcendental. But as long as someone's trying to be on the path, then all glories.
yeah, very nice. Yeah, I think the last line really sums it up in one sense. That due to former habits, he may commit some wrong. But because he is engaged in the service of the Lord, that wrong should not be taken very seriously. So, yeah, we all have so many bad habits, and things from our previous existence or previous lives. But to come to Krishna consciousness, as you said, is really the topmost thing, and it's applaudable. You know, we should really just encourage each other. But yeah, also saying that, you know, you feel genuinely that sometimes you don't click with others. Sometimes people do this and do that, and it's difficult because it doesn't mean that there shouldn't be, how do you say, kind of discipline, rectification or correction, you know, but yeah, at the same time we should be encouraging and try not to focus on the faults. I think in the purport to the verse that's spoken about, which is 9, I believe it's 9:30 or 9:31. I think it's 9:30. Apichetsu Duracharo. That verse of the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada says that the faults of the devotees should be considered like spots on the moon. That the moon, just even though it has a few spots on it, doesn't mean it stops its ability to shine forth so much light. And in the same way, we know in Nectar of Instruction, Srila Prabhupada commenting on Rupa Goswami's commentary of Upadeshamrita, that it mentions that basically we shouldn't see the faults. So it's a challenge for us, but at the same time it's clearly an instruction, and we see how Krishna handled and dealt with things, and in the way that he handled and dealt with things, he was able to help the four Kumars see the error of their own ways, you know, without having to chastise them to get on the case.
Yeah. Alright, text 26. The Lord replied, O Brahmanas, know that the punishment you inflicted on them was originally ordained by me. Therefore they will fall to a birth in a demoniac family. But they will be firmly united with me in thought through mental concentration, intensified by anger, and they will return to my presence shortly. Obviously, shortly for Krishna is different for us, because these 3 different births they took, they were over quite a span of time.
Yeah, they weren't in Kali Yuga either, so they were all like, you know, minimum like 1,000 years, 10,000 years of earthly life. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's an important thing, that we put so much emphasis on the amount of time here, but you know, for the Lord, it's just a blink of an eye kind of thing, you know. So
yeah, I've heard a lecture. I don't like saying this one, I can't remember who said it, if it was Prabhupada or not, but definitely bona fide lecture, that when we wake up in the spiritual world, it's like you had a dream, bad dream, and you're like, oh, what was that, you know? That would be shaking off all the millions of births we've had, like, oh, what was that dream? Oh, that was horrible.
Yeah, kind of like the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
When she wakes up and it's like, oh, must have all just been a bad dream. Interesting. Okay, brief the purport.
The Lord stated that the punishment inflicted by the sages upon the doorkeepers Jaya and Vijaya was conceived by the Lord himself. Without the Lord's sanction, nothing can happen. It is to be understood that there was a plan in the cursing of the Lord's devotees in Vaikuntha, and his plan is explained by many stalwart authorities. The Lord sometimes desires to fight. A fighting spirit also exists in the Supreme Lord, otherwise how could fighting be manifested at all? Because the Lord is the source of everything, anger and fighting are also inherent in his personality. When he desires to fight with someone, he has to find an enemy. But in the Vaikuntha world, there is no enemy, because everyone is engaged fully in his service. Therefore, he sometimes comes to the material world as an incarnation in order to manifest his fighting spirit.
So now the Lord is saying, anyway, don't worry. It was all my plan. It was ordained by me.
Why did you say that in the first place and everyone getting upset?
Because he still needed, it was all part of the plan. They still needed to learn their lesson also. In Bhagavad Gita 4.8, also it is said that the Lord appears just to give protection to the devotees. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chaduskritam dharma samstarpanataya sambhavami yuge yuge. The non-devotees are found in the material world, not in the spiritual world. Therefore, when the Lord wants to fight, he has to come to this world. But who will fight with the Supreme Lord? No one is able to fight with him. Therefore, because the Lord's pastimes in the material world are always performed with his associates, not with others, he has to find some devotee who will play the part of an enemy. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says to Arjuna, "My dear Arjuna, both you and I have appeared many, many times in this material world, but you have forgotten, whereas I remember." Thus, Jai and Vijay were selected by the Lord to fight with him in the material world, and that was the reason the sages came to see him, and accidentally the doorkeepers were cursed. It was the Lord's desire to send them to the material world, not perpetually, but for some time. Therefore, just as on a theatrical stage, someone takes the part of enemy to the proprietor of the stage, although the play is for a short time and there is no permanent enmity between the servant and the proprietor. So the Surajanas, the devotees, were cursed by the sages to go to the Asurajanas, or atheistic families. That a devotee should come into an atheistic family is surprising, but it is simply a show. After finishing their mock fighting, both the devotee and the Lord are again associated in the spiritual planets. That is very explicitly explained here. The conclusion is that no one falls from the spiritual world or Vaikuntha planet, for it is the eternal abode. But sometimes, as the Lord desires, devotees come into this material world as preachers or as atheists. In each case, we must understand that there is a plan of the Lord. Lord Buddha, for example, was an incarnation, yet he preached atheism. There is no God, but actually there was a plan behind this, as explained in the Bhagavatam. Wow, okay. Powerful purport again. Any thoughts?
Yeah, it was all ordained by the Lord. Because as it's saying, who's he going to fight with? So he'd fight with his devotee.
Gotta have someone to fight with. So
that means we can fight with devotees, because who we can
No,
fight
I don't
with?
think it means that.
It's all ordained by the Lord.
But interesting, the last statement about no one falls from the spiritual world. Of course, that's a huge topic we're not going to open up right now, but this is one of the places where Prabhupada's statement seems to be ever so slightly different from what he says in other places, which is that we have fallen from the spiritual world and we're trying to get back there. But I think when you get into trying to unpack these apparent contradictions, you can see that there is ultimately no contradiction. So and of course he says that it's the eternal abode. We're ever existing in the spiritual world. Just somehow or other we've come under the sway or illusion of the material energy. So like that. Anyway, it's an interesting topic.
Yeah, very deep, very controversial for some people. Anyway, we're here. That's the point, isn't it?
Yeah, like Prabhupada said, really, it's when you're when a house is on fire, you don't stand around trying to figure out who started the fire. You just work on getting out of the house. So like that. So I think we'll finish there.
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to pick up next time reading with Lord Brahma speaking. So very powerful. Okay, and there's not many pages left in this chapter, but we thank you all for tuning in and continuing to read and hear Srimad Bhagavatam with us. So the Prabhupada Marathon's coming up soon. and we'll be distributing lots of Srila Prabhupada's books, so please get involved. If you're watching at home, read Prabhupada's books, distribute Srila Prabhupada's books, and if you would like to sponsor any books, or you'd like us to send you any books, then please let us know, and we'll be happy to help out in whatever way we can. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Entourage Srimad Bhagavatam Ki
Jai.
Jai.